Madem bila yun nari kiaro.
What an option, eh?
You're welcome on blackhotfire Network. Good evening. This is Africa Maria from Kampala, Uganda. I'm so very excited. Yeah, tonight, and I hope you guys come in as soon as now. Yes. Well, it is always a pleasure having you guys drop in your comments as I go live and as we, of course, discuss different matters concerning Africa. And as usual, it's me, Africa Maria. So today's topic is about Africa, and the topic is that no one intends to let African people program themselves. We've been actually talking a lot about the mind enslavement that is within the African people that crosses the boundaries from the land demarcations to the mind of the Africans, tribalism, and the belief of selfishness that they belong to the tribes that were identified by their colonial masters. But as we, the woke Africans who believe that we as Africans we are one and the tribes and the languages we speak have got nothing to do with our history and the greatness that African people possess at large. Now, very many people have so very much tried to put the blame on different Africans, like y'all be blaming the colonial masters for the things that are past. And history cannot, I mean, you cannot be blaming people for things we've never experienced, to the point that a lot of Africans still think we did not experience colonialism, but rather our ancestors did. Now, there is a lot to add on to this. Now, tonight's topic is the real deal. And no matter how Africans would really want to change their minds about a lot of things, no one intends to let them be. Whether we as Africans decide to say we want to see the Africans develop and grow strong, there is still somebody behind there who is trying to hold the Africans so high to make sure that you don't reach that goal that you wish for. We are talking about the economical control of Africans. We are talking about the mind control of the African people. I'll give you, for instance, the topic I had yesterday about the DNA testing that is actually happening in Uganda for now. It is very rampant that everyone is talking about it, to the point that every child is questioning whether the parents they have is there, because I told you, when things hit Africa, they hit so deep and they hit so high. Now, right now, if we look at the DNA program, it shows that a lot of Africans right now did not think about doubting their children, but rather now everyone is trying to doubt, everyone is trying to question, is this one my child? Or is my wife cheating or not? So it is adding a question to the mind of the Africans that everyone is questioning the possibility of their children too. So, two, if you look at how a lot of Africans behave, we've been talking from the way we measure beauty, from the way we wear, from the way the styles of eating. What do we call good feeding in Africa? It is actually the worst feeding ever. People no longer follow the right traditional means of feeding that kept our ancestors, live for a very long time and healthy. But if we look at that kind of eating, everyone is like, yeah, how do you eat that? That is not normal. How do you eat unfried food? How do you eat an oily food? You want to, everyone calls that. We have that modern kind of mind right now, that everything that is very African is a taboo in the minds of those who think that they are very much informed about today's modern life. Now, why is it important for these Africans to stay programmed the way the Mzungu wants them to be? It is very important for us to still be mind enslaved, because this is the only way we can be remote controlled. I repeat, it is the only way we can be remote controlled. It is very hard for you to control somebody who is mentally independent. It is very, very difficult for someone to control an individual who is mentally independent. If someone is a decision maker, if I wake up and I decide I'm going to do this on my own, and I decide that this is what I want, it is very hard for somebody else to tell me otherwise. Now, if you look at the Africa's political system, it is still the political system that a lot of Africans wouldn't wish to have, or a lot of Africans are against. But yet, we are still voting for these very people we are up against. And yet, we are still following the right measures that we are up against. And yet, we are still agreeing to be governed by the very people that we are up against, because the simple case, we are programmed to believe that we are living in a democratic environment. And what is democracy? Of course, it is the choice, or it is the will of the majority over the minority. But when you look at Africa, I do not really think it is the vote of the majority over the minority, but rather the will of the minority over the majority. Now, this is Africa state right now, and it is not only in Uganda as we speak, but in entire Africa as a whole. For those who are just watching, thank you very much for coming through, and thank you very much for joining me tonight on Black Hot Fire Network. And we've seen, first of all, another way we shall talk about the mainstream. Like everyone, a lot of people go out there and they study journalism, no matter the kind of journalism, be it investigative journalism like the one I'm pursuing now, or the other flood or mass communication and journalism as something, or people want to be lawyer or something. But let me talk about the journalistic work. Everybody who studies journalism is somebody who wants to change the world, is someone who wants to change the environment, someone who wants to bring change to the society. But you cannot bring this change to the society when you're governed by someone else. And that's the mainstream. We see a lot of people out there do not really show people the right things they're supposed to do. What is the work of the journalist? Is to educate, inform, entertain, and but the major thing is to educate and inform. But if you are educating people in a wrong way and giving them the wrong information, that means you are not a real journalist. But a lot of journalists would really love to practice this positively, but there is somebody behind the media houses. Someone is controlling the mainstream. Someone is controlling what you're going to broadcast. Someone controls what you ought to say on air. If you say something, like we always see our channels here on YouTube are always put down. If you do not follow what they, if you, the moment you pronounce something, or they, something that they don't like, they put the channel down. If you speak facts that are really affecting them, the channel is put down. So you can see how these people are controlling the mainstream. Now in Africa, even the journalists are being controlled. You might choose to decide and speak the truth. The next thing, no media house is going to be, hiring you. No newspaper is going to hire you. No tabloid is going to hire you. Nobody. is willing to hire you, yet the world wants to listen to you, but simply because you are speaking the truth that nobody wants the people to know. That is a sign that the media is being controlled by specific individuals or a group of people who wouldn't want to see the truth come out there to the people. Now, African youths are always on media. Now, if you touch the media, if you distort the information and broadcast it on different media platforms, that means you are miseducating the youth. And that's why a lot of African youths are actually miseducated, because we do not spend much of our time with elders. We spend much of our times on our laptops, on our phones, chatting, going through a lot of platform rather than sitting with elders and getting the right information from the right source. Like an African proverb says that, you know, an elder is entire library of information. You know, nowadays we no longer sit with our great grannies, with our grannies, with people who are older than us. We just keep on the mainstream, we keep on the social media, television, whatever, for us to keep on watching and listening and being miseducated and misinformed. And I guess this is the first class, means of misinformation and miseducation, both in Africa and outside Africa. Dwight Davidson, thank you so much for coming through. I see you are the only one who is here. I hope you keep me busy. Does Mzungu include Asians? Yes, it is okay. We call them Bazungu. For us here, we do not. We do not differentiate Mzungu, but as long as you are that, you are a Mzungu. As long as you are not an African, you are a Mzungu. Yeah, so yeah. Yeah, so Mzungu includes Asian too. So if you want to drop a comment about the Asians, you're good to go. Oh, I guess you were asking in corresponding to I think I wrote something on Facebook on blackhotfire network radio page, I guess, a description of the topic. Yeah, I understand now. That's why you're asking about Mzungu. Yeah, in Africa, Mzungu ni Mzungu. As long as you're an African, we call you Mzungu. We are the only African people. The article you sent. The article you sent. Yeah, I read about the article. Actually, it's a great one. It's a very, very, very informative, but it is very unfortunate that a lot of Africans do not really see this. A lot of Africans rather for them. I don't know how they categorize. I don't know how they categorize, but I think these people get to know that Africans love to listen to sweet things. I guess they love to listen to promising things about China plans. Yes, about the China plans of China, of course, inviting, constructing, building infrastructures and everything, and inviting the other Bazungus to come down to Africa. Yeah, because I personally believe China also wants to control Africa. Like we always talk about the scramble and partition of Africa, and we got some few countries that put Africa on the table now. China is, of course, greatly among them, and as they want to scramble, what I'm seeing is something that some lions are, have sat and they're trying to discuss. Okay, did you have a chance in Africa? No, I did not. Now, Russia, I think we should all come in. Last time, German, France, and British, they were down there doing some stuff. Now we also have to do something down to Africa. And of course, I guess we are seeing Russia, China inviting Russia and other countries. I think they want to come together and also have a piece of Africa, because of course China knows he can't do this alone. And also Russia knows they can't control Africa alone. Now, I think these people are trying to see how they can control Africa, you know, um, with these other countries, the Iran and other countries. I think they have a way they feel like they want to control Africa, and we may have another scramble and partition of Africa if at all Africa is not very careful. I'm seeing blindly Africa is falling in love with Russia. And unfortunately, some of them do not understand this matrix and they do not understand why Russia is here. And yes, others do support China because for them, they are saying China's existence in Africa is very tangible. Like I usually tell you guys, um, China's existence in Africa is so tangible, even a little child will see. And I think this is that print that they want to live in Africa. Because if they say, somebody will be walking on a road and read a signpost constructed by China, if at all and a 7-year-old child is able to read, will know, okay, so I'm moving on this road and it was constructed by China. So China funded this road. And that is the impact in that child's mind. The same story goes on and on. Like recently, I was telling you, the US comes out to try and beg Africa and all that because it doesn't want to lose Africa. But US's existence in Africa has been not so direct. Basically, they have been focusing a lot on aid and the aid that people don't feel the touch of aid, actually. People don't feel that touch. If you talk about building schools and these schools, they're still paying school fees, nobody's going to feel that touch. And now China sits down and studies. I guess we know that they bagged the headquarters of the the African Union. I guess that's when they got to know how to tackle Africa's situation. Dwight says the puppets will allow the Asians to take over. Of course, we can see the puppets trying to fall in love with the Asians because they believe they're giving them a loan at a fairer interest. And these guys are so cool when they're giving us loans. But these people have a very weird kind of way. They will give you too much money and that they know you will not be able to refund. As they give you this money, they bring some other things that will keep you so busy taking care of and forget to pay their debt. And what happens? They take for them their collateral. You don't give them collateral. They're huge. They choose what they want. If they say we want your airport or we want that lake or we want that national park, it is their decision. They decide the man of yeah. They decide your man of they decide what you're going to give them as collateral. So if they say we want your airport, or if they say we want your national game park, if you want this money, we want to take your game park. We don't want anything else. We want to take your game park. Position that if you are not going to give them that game park that they want to take, or the national, tourist park or whatever, they will not give you that loan. These people the Chinese have studied Africa, I guess because of the bag they put in the African Union headquarters, that they got to know what is really affecting the Africans and they know how to go about everything. So as they come in, then you have nothing else than to say, all right, if I fail to give you this money, you're going to take the biggest national park in my country, or you're going to take the main airport in my country. It's going to belong to you. So what happens then? These Chinese then get to study and say, okay, now Uganda is trying to pay their debt. I see. It is trying to pay their debt. It's trying to do this, blah, blah. Where are they getting their money from? Are they getting their money from agriculture? Are they getting their money from something like that? We need to give them plan B. We need to make sure that they are not capable of paying this money. We need to bring up something that is going to affect Uganda's economy so that they default. And then boom, from nowhere, you will see a lot of things happening, infectious diseases and all that kind of things. The prices of commodities increasing when you go to China, because most of the Ugandan traders, of course, they get their commodities from China, most products from China. So what would the Chinese government do? And this is something that the governments of Africa do not really look at. So what would the Chinese government do? They will start hiking the prices. They start hiking the prices. And of course, why are we talking about even hiking the prices? Even they have their industries, they have their factories down in Africa. Once they start hiking these prices up, then what will the traders do? The traders also will start hiking the prices. The tax money will increase, the commodity, the economy of the country is going to fall, and of course, and other factors remaining constant, the country fails to pay the debt, and then boom, the airport is taken. They always give you this date, they always give you this money, this loan that they issue to you when they have a plan B. That if you try to pay this loan, then what? What can they do to make sure that you default, to make sure that you fail to pay the loan? Dwight Davidson, the puppets will not allow Asians, will allow, of course they will. Of course they will, stupidly. I'm sorry. They will. And because I'm seeing a lot of African governments are too much into getting the loans than trying to get money, because we have every resource possible to make us, to make it able for us to develop our countries than asking for loans. We have every possible resource. First of all, we got tourism. Almost every African country has a tourism site. If we only boost this, it's going to increase the economy. It's going to boost it. That's one. We've got our culture. We should open Africa for different Africans to tour. If you make Africa a free visa and a free visa continent, I'm telling you, tourism will be boosted, because everywhere there are a lot of beautiful things to see in every part of Africa. And Africans themselves are enough to boost the tourism system in Africa, if at all we are given the opportunity. But where do we see the opportunity? The opportunity only comes from mzungu. If somebody leaves this open, why don't I go down to Kilimanjaro and see the beauty there? Then why don't I go down to see the Khoisan people in the southern part of Africa? Why don't I go to see the Bushmen down there? Why don't people come down to Uganda to see the beauty that is down here? People always read about the source of the river Nile, where River Nile starts, and of course that's Uganda. People would want to come. Children from different schools in Africa would say, we are going down to Uganda this time around to get to see how the Nile flows, where the Nile began from, and how it flows. People will come down to see the greatest rift valley in the entire world. People will step down in East Africa to see the varieties. The very Africans who study Africa will come to Africa to know where everything they study is. There is no mzungu who is studying about Africa. People hear about Africa. People hear about the Congo. People hear about the Great Rift Valley that crosses through the entire East Africa. People will hear about the game parks. Other people have even never seen the animals. Now, tell me, if they make Africa a free visa continent, Africans themselves will be enough to boost the tourism sector in the entire Africa. Because we study Africa at a geographical level, everyone would wish to move and go and see the amazing stuff. Dwight Davidson says Uganda has 12 trillion in gold and billions in oil. it doesn't need Caucasian, I guess that's what you meant. It doesn't need Caucasians, no an Asian mzungu money. True. We got a lot. We got a lot of minerals all over Africa. Now, of course, Uganda has 12 trillion in gold, and that is just the estimation. I believe the gold goes beyond the 12 trillion that the government is trying to calculate. And we got billions in oil sector. We have got, by the way, aluminium. We have got, you know, you is it uranium? Yeah, we've got uranium. We got cobalt, and you it's like Uganda itself right now is seated on minerals only. I don't know where they're going to put the people in Uganda, but Uganda has sat on gold. The biggest percentage of Uganda's land is on gold, you know, uranium, and other, of course, oil and other minerals. And this is enough to bring a difference. I don't know why governments keep on going for loans and loans and loans. You finish this loan, they take something, you get this loan. And I'm seeing, I wonder why a lot of Muzungi is trying to pick interest at the source of the Nile right now. We have a lot of contractors who are bringing, proposition like they want to buy the source of the Nile. There could be something else that is hidden at the source of the Nile that we as the Ugandan people have no knowledge about. Recently, it was a debate on Focal Focus and one of the televisions in Uganda, and people were talking about the fact that a lot of Bazungus are coming and picking interest at the source of the Nile. Like, why do they want to buy that entire thing? And how is it possible that you really buy a natural resource? How can you come and say, I'm buying this entire, source of the Nile or lake? Whoever bought, who owns that? Even we as people, we do not own, we don't have a specific somebody who says that I own this lake, I own the other river, I own that. That's bullshit. You don't do that shit. But people are doing it, of course. I can see Jiba Jabba. Thank you very much, Jiba Jabba, for coming through. Hi there. I hope you're doing good. China wants to build roads and invite Iran, India, Brazil, and others to build factories along these roads. They will belong to foreign countries once again. Africa will be a strip mine. Um, this time, an Asian Mzungu strip mine as the Asians push the Caucasians out. Uganda has the rare earth metals required for oil and space exploration. Yes, Jiba Jaba. Yes, true. Back to Dwight Davidson's comment that China wants to build roads and invite Iran, India, Brazil, and others to build factories along these roads. That they will belong to foreign countries. Once again, Africa will be a strip mine. This time, an Asian Mzungu strip mine as the Asians push the Caucasians out. Now, the Asians, yes, have picked a lot of interest, but it's very funny because China itself is not a very rich country. China is a poor place. It just wants, and I feel like China wants to have home in Africa. China wants to have a home in Africa because, first of all, its population is increasing rapidly. Its population is increasing rapidly. Jimmy Jamba says that he's on quick break. Thank you very much for coming during your quick break. Thank you so much. So China, I think China is extending far. Its interest is beyond wanting to exploit. It also wants to settle. It's like we're going to have a war like the ones we're seeing of the Boers down in South Africa, where we are seeing the Africans as squatters on their own land, and Mzungu claims the entire beautiful and fertile lands in South Africa and making the indigenous people, all the African squatters on their own land. Now, we are going to see this experience actually because the Chinese people are here to stay. If, like, we do not wake up and open our eyes to see the reality, It's like these people are coming down here. No wonder that's why they've been having their babies everywhere, having their babies. Probably they want to leave a print, and maybe they want to make Africa another home, because for them they think that to have very huge piece of land, like it's crazy. Yes, China wants to send million of Chinese to Africa. That is the one reason why those Chinese created 10,000 babies in Uganda. I've always wanted to discuss about these 10,000 babies in Uganda. I don't know, Dwight, maybe you will sponsor me. Maybe Dwight Davidson will sponsor me. I go down that place where these Chinese are at, and I make a great interview and ask these women, like, why? And you see how these babies look at. I guess this time it will be like a documentary or something like that. But I've really so much wanted to have the experience of those Chinese babies, and I think now they are grown to they're grown now. I guess they're no longer babies, but, and they are mothers, and probably they give us, like, how did those guys? You will sponsor. Then Davidson said he's going to sponsor my movement to thank you. Thank you. Uh-huh. Thank you. I guess, yeah. Joy Davidson said he's going to sponsor me to go and meet those women and the Chinese babies, and you get it. And it's actually, I don't know. There is something I'm yet to understand. These people have these babies where they prostitutes, and of course, I know the story of these young girls, the ones who were very young, because for the Chinese, they had to say that for them, they are not laying with girls who are not virgins. So what they wanted is to go for virgin girls in Uganda. So I want to see if this was really true, because but I know one of some of the cases where it was true, where they were pregnanting young girls who were underage. Of course, they must have been virgins because they were very young. And these children were given to these very people by their parents because they're looking at them mzungu. I mean, you're in mzungu after all. So, I mean, maybe you have a greater plan for my child who is down up country. And maybe, and the Chinese lying to the parents with a lot of different stories. But yes, sis right said it's gonna sponsor me. I can't wait. I can't wait to go down there and see what these people are up to, and why and what pushed them to be having babies for the Chinese, and how actually they are convinced to do that crazy shit. But yeah, that's that's Africa for you. So let me see. Yes, Chinese wants to send million of Chinese to Africa. Yeah, I know. And actually, for everything, I guess they're trying to construct the roads just to make the place, beautiful for them. It's like you're constructing something that you're going to benefit from. It's like you're trying to construct something that you're coming to stay. So I'm coming to stay over there. I have to make that place so classic, the way I want it. So this is their plan. And of course, we're seeing a lot of Chinese coming down here. One thing I'm not sure of, have we seen this other regular? If I talk about regular, that means the what other name can I call them? Regular. I think regular is good. What I'm not sure about yet is whether we have regular Chinese buying land in Uganda so far. Apart from the so-called investors, I want to know if other regular, because if those other regular Chinese are possessing land, then that is terrible. That means we are in for another war. We are in for a silence war that we aren't sure of, that silent war that we have no knowledge about. And I also hope these people are not acquiring land down here. But I know Bazungus, the Caucasian people, have so very much had interest in our oil, around the oil places and where these minerals are at. These people are trying to buy land, and they're buying land in a wrong way, that they're trying to lie to the indigenous people and all that. So people are giving in their money through the fake blockers, total sellouts, other Africans doing that, of course. You'd be asking how it is possible for these other, Bazungus, to start acquiring land. Of course, they deal with those other people and they promise the other Africans big, and the promises do not really come true, and that's how other people fall prey to these predators in Africa. So, what do you think about? Well, I wanted to ask you a question. I don't know. I cannot even remember it. Mom, somewhat. Mama is kunywa mkintu kyange kili. I'm drinking water. Yeah. Quick break, and if it's channel on social millions of Chinese in Africa, those are coming from great appreciative occasion. Kiambule kiona just better. Mm. So, this whole thing, if really we have people out there who are in to save Africa from this, that would be the mainstream, the media houses, the different platforms. But unfortunately, these platforms in Africa are very controlled. Like I was telling you at the beginning of this show, apart from people wanting to study journalism, probably for a showcase or something like that, major people want to study this so that they can save the world. But as you study this, you cannot do this on your own. And the majority of the houses actually do not support the truth. And that's why we are seeing like a lot of African journalists going astray. I was thirsty. So that's why we are seeing a lot of these people going astray. And how is it possible that Africans, no matter what we talk about, we have got those people who contradict to the discussions we have. We may be here on blackhotfire Network right now. We are talking about this topic, and somebody else is on a major stream talking about how it is great for the Chinese to come down to Africa. And the situation that has happened in Africa, leaving Africa in absolute poverty, psychological poverty, everyone is so desperate to have a touch of a different lifestyle. So if you tell somebody, you see the cities you watch on TV, have you ever seen the cities you watch on TV in movies and all that? The Chinese people are bringing that here. The first question that should come in the mind of an African is, don't we have the potential to construct a more beautiful city than the one I see on TV? But of course, that will not cross their mind because they do not believe in themselves, because they do not believe that they have the potential to do something great. Because we Africans do not believe that we have the powers, we have the resources, we have the ability, and of course we have the manpower, because we are acting as laborers and manpower in different countries. And that's one thing to show that we have the power, the energy, and the labor strength. But of course, we go outside and exercise that strength to some other people, develop other people. So that would not cross the African mind that we have the potential to build that without inviting anyone else. And of course, Dwight Davison tells us that Africa has got a lot of minerals, and it is true. The example he gave us of Uganda having 12 trillion of gold, and that's just an estimation. It goes beyond that, and billions of oil. It goes beyond that, cobalt. It goes beyond that. uranium. It is beyond. And still, we still need a Chinese. What have the Chinese discovered? Okay, if Uganda has uranium, it has cobalt, it has aluminum. I mean, Uganda has gold and oil and all this stuff. Now, I'm going to be a friend. And what Africans think is that Chinese are your friends. They are not. First of all, they see you as meat. You all have seen how these people have been eating African fresh. They've been eating our flesh, eating us fresh. You watch that documentary where the workers were disappearing in Kenya. The wives stay home. The next day, you don't see your husband come back, and you're like, "Where's my husband? What has happened to my man?" And the next time, your fellow, another woman whose husband was working with yours, is telling me, "I'm not seeing my husband too. I don't know where my husband is at." And the next one also starts complaining until these women stood up and said, "What's happening? We are not seeing our husbands come back home. What's going on?" Only to realize that these other people were eaten by the Chinese. Otherwise, the Chinese were eating them. They just get one, I get one goat over there, maybe it's whatever. They slaughter and eat. They slaughter and they claim that they believe the African flesh, the African beef and the bones are very, very, I guess they are medicinal. That's what they claimed. They claimed African flesh, the bones, and everything about the African meat is a medicine. With a belief that it will keep them longer. With a belief that if Chinese eat the flesh, they will live longer. So now we are having Chinese come. Are we going to stay safe? If they look at a thick person like me, they will say, "How many kilos does she weigh?" I guess this is a very, very too much medicine. Honey, should we be scared because now we are meat? And then I don't know how that ended. I don't know if these people were sentenced or I don't know, whatever. But we no longer talk about it now. And then a Chinese comes in, holds the boobs of some young girls, teenagers, and he takes a selfie. I think these girls were laborers over there with their boobs outside, holding their boobs, and he's taking a selfie and all that. So what are we? What is an African woman to this Chinese, and what is an African man to the Chinese people? And then they also believe it is okay to lay with a virgin young girl because it increases or boosts their health system and increases luck. I don't know the kind of voodoo these guys are going to. That they think you have to put your energy with the young black girl who is a virgin, of course, who have not laid with another man, and it gives you blessing and everything. You know, fetish kind of stuff. But yeah, we were to see your mama or going. Talk about these facts. No one is going to let us preach the truth to our fellow black people in Africa. You have seen on several and several occasions our YouTube channels being put down. There are other YouTube channels, other Africans who are willing to spit fire, who are willing to speak the truth, and their channels are put down every time, every now and then, all the time. So it's like the information should not go out there to that people because there is somebody who is fighting the education, the learning, the education that we are trying to bring out to the world. There's something happens with these other media houses, televisions, radios, and these other, platforms that they are controlled by the organizers. Like if you try, of course, you cannot just go on air and then start, talking about stuff. Somebody manages what you're going to talk about. So you take your script and somebody's gonna look through your script and say, okay, this is what you're gonna talk about today, fine. Or this is what you're gonna say. No, you can't do that because these people are the sponsors of this of this radio station or television, so you cannot talk about that. Okay, I'm going to talk about black women and blah. Somebody says, no, I know what you want to talk about is the truth and it's beautiful, but you know what? Somebody runs this game. You cannot broadcast that. And that's how we are seeing a lot of journalists coming out to create their own platform where they have no one to control them, where they have the ability to speak their mind and educate, inform the public about various things. But still, these other platforms that are uniting us are also controlled. That's why you see some of blackhotfire network's YouTube channel being put down when you speak about the truth. That's why most of you comment some facts and your comments are blocked or deleted, or even other people do not have, fail to have access to your comments the moment you say the truth. So how I wish we had our platforms as black people that would reach out to the world as large as the platforms we have like YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and these other things that are actually managed by other people who have no control, or who will not control us and limit us, from speaking facts. I hope we get blessed with the surge. Hopefully, I don't know, but I hope in future. Or do we have a platform that is for the black people? Do we have an app? Do we have, you know, applications that are good for communication and for black people, and they are unlimited? Do we have that, Dwight Davidson? Do we have that Jiba Japa? I don't know. I'm not aware of any. But if we do, then I guess it would be a good thing. Should be a good thing. Because here we are so very much controlled to what we say, and this goes beyond. Now, you cannot tell other people otherwise if the school that everyone believes in is teaching us. Chiba Jabba says yes, Black Hot Fire Network. And Black Hot Fire Network is in conjunction with YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and these other means that channels that do not even allow us to. And yeah, you're right. Black Hot Fire Network. So you know, you cannot unprogram or you cannot reprogram the African mind system if the education system that the Africans believe in actually programs them otherwise. You cannot reprogram. We have a proverb in Africa that says, once you try to bend or to recorrect, let me say, a tree or a plant, let me say a tree that grew when it's bent, if you try to force it to stand straight, it breaks. It breaks. Now, this is a problem I have. The programming of Africa's mindset begins when we are children. In the schools where we go to, and when you teach a young person something, it is very hard for you to wipe that out of their mind. Young children understand and stick to things very fast. That's why, in correspondence of protecting the Black legacy, we as Black people, we should start teaching our children at a very young age. Because a young child's mind is still empty. It is too virgin, as it is fragile to conception. It is open to learning. And once you leave a print in that mind, no matter what information the child puts in their mind, there is that information that has a print in the depth of the mind and the brain of this young person. It will never be wiped away, no matter what. even if they try to go astray, something deep down will be reminding them of the facts. It will be reminding them of the truth. And that's why it is very important for us to teach and educate the children at a very tender, very tender and young age. Teach them, first of all, accounts, because it is very important for people to know how to account for money. Teach them accounts, teach them discipline. Mom, shut. Muri hey yataka chuziro dresa rara hero mutwali. 3 years to 5 years are the critical years. After 10 is a wrap. Reach them early. True. True. Teach them accounts. Teach them their history. Teach them respect. Teach them to protect. There are some basics that Africans ought to teach their children no matter what. Teach them discipline. Respect. Respect is very important. To be disciplined in different fields is very important as well. Teach them how to account for money is very important. Teaching them their history is very important. Teaching them how to protect is also very important. Now, those are the major and other stuffs that a child trusts. Teaching them to be open-minded and always to be truthful. Okay? Those aspects are very important. History, their history is important. Accounts is very important. Protection is very important. Of course, protecting their legacy is also very and extra important, because these children's legacy is your legacy, is your forefathers' legacy. It is a chain of protection. And these children ought to learn. So when a child grows knowing the things, that I have to be faithful. I don't have to be someone who's cheating somebody else. I don't have to step on somebody's toes for me to be up there. I don't have to cheat. I have to be faithful, to appreciate what they have, and to know what is yours and what is not, to have boundaries to various things. Those are things we need. And like Jabba tells us that 3 years to 5 years are critical years. After 10 is a wrap preach, is a wrap. Now reach them early. Because a child at 3 to 5, these children are children who believe that their parents are the superheroes that, of course, TV shows them, or they're the greatest people. So whatever you teach them, it sits in the root of their spirit. And of course, teaching them spirituality. Very important. So guys, thank you so very much for coming through. Keith, I guess, will be coming in another show with the Joby, and I don't know who else, but they will be coming. Jabba, thank you for saving your time for me in this little short break of yours. I'm so very grateful. Thank you for being here. Dwight Davidson, what can I say? Thank you so super, very much for being here. You've kept me going on, and of course, motivating me, and hey, with Jib Jabba, of course. Thank you so much, guys, for loving blackhotfire Network. Thank you very much for always tuning in whenever I'm coming live. Jiba Jabba, bye. Take care of yourself. I hope you have a blessed day ahead. See you tomorrow, Friday, same time. It is me, African Maria from Kampala, Uganda. I say, ciao. Don't be programmed. Reprogram yourself for a better future for the Black people. Bye. Take care. I'm out of here.